Okay, guys, we're going to pick up with season 3, episode number 8 of Carl Weber's The Family Business. And I just returned to look at the show again, you guys, so no spoilers, please. So the scene opened up with Patrick running into Alexander, and he wanted Alexander to know that he ran into his daughter, Sagittarius. But of course, Patrick is like, my daughter's dead. What are you talking about? You made sure that she was dead. And he said, oh no, I saw her with my own eyes. I saw her. And during their back and forth, Patrick put his hands on Alexander. And Alexander stood there just looking at him dead in his eyes. And he was like, look, one thing you need to do is take your hands off of me. And Patrick knew he wasn't supposed to have his hands all over Alexander like that. And listen, he was so close to Alexander talking. And I was saying to myself, Lord, please don't let this man spit on him because he's too close to his face, right? His mouth got a little juicy. But he told Alexander that his ship was sinking and that he was going to hunt Sagittarius down and then bring her before the council. So he really wants to make this man look bad. So when Patrick left, all the while they were standing there, he's talking all this ish. Alexander was holding his knife, right? So instead of using the knife, he used his head instead and called somebody to take care of Patrick. I'm sure that's what he was calling for. So I'm thinking that it's on the eve of when Sagittarius was killed, because here we see his wife, Dominique, gazing out at Ruby and their son. And she's talking about how impressive Ruby is. And Alexander thinks that she wants to replace their daughter. And she's like, no, I'm not trying to replace her. I'm just going to the grave tomorrow. And she wanted Alexander to go with her this time. Apparently he hasn't been going, but he told her that he has a meeting in Dubai tomorrow and he can't go. Then he told her that she needs to let the death of their daughter go. Let it go? Really? Like, are you kidding me? But we'll find out later why he feels this way. And Dominique is really in her feelings because she said that she never got the opportunity to tell Sagittarius that she loved her. So Dominique made it to the tombstone and she's there talking to Sagittarius at her grave. And she was, brought up Maud and how they were friends and everything. And she was really regretful that they fought all the time. And they fought all the time because they were so much alike, right? So she started crying and, just really sad that her daughter is gone. Then she heard something. She heard something over in the bushes. And then later on, we saw Patrick at the grave, him and all of his boys, his son, standing there trying to dig up the girl's grave. And one of the guys was looking at Patrick like, bruh, are you kidding me right now? Like, are you serious? And he spit on her grave. He actually spit on Sagittarius's grave. Like, this is the most disgusting character that anybody could ever come up with. He is so disgusting to me. And I'm sure that this is who Dominique heard rambling over in the bushes, because the way they have the cameras angled, it's as if someone is looking at them, right? So the next morning, Patrick came back to the gravesite and the guys had already dug up the body. Well, they dug up the casket and they opened the casket and they saw sandbags inside. And this is exactly what Patrick wanted to see. He knew she wasn't dead. And this is why I think Dominique saw them when they came to the grave, because then she ended up at Maud's place all of a sudden, right? She knew that they were good friends, and because it's the eve of when she was killed, she used that as an excuse to be at the salon. And Maud was high as a kite sitting there talking to her. And Dominique went on to tell her how she envied their relationship and the friendship that she had with Sagittarius. She's her mom, so of course she wanted to garner that type of relationship with her own daughter, but her and Maud had that type of friendship and she was envious of it. Then Maud told her that the reason that they're so close is because she knows how to keep secrets. So of course at this point, Dominique is curious and she wants to know what kind of secrets Maud is keeping for Sagittarius. So the two nail technicians sitting there looking like, oh my gosh, Maud, please don't say anything. Don't talk. Just shut up. But old drunk Maud kept talking. She said that Sagittarius is living real good. She told her that Armand Shaw has her killing people. And all the while that she's talking about her, she's talking about Sagittarius in the present tense. And this pissed Dominique off. She grabbed her. She was like, have you seen her? What are you talking about? My daughter is dead. And Maud said, I only see her in my dreams. Just lying. And Dominique knew she was lying too. And if y'all want to know why Maud stays so high, because she's on that heat. Either she has heat or she has fire, one of the two. And recently, she's been on that fire. And so is everybody else. This actually prompted the meeting, the roundtable meeting meeting that Elsie always has with his invested friends, right? And he's very concerned because everybody's orders have been shortened at least by 30% by pretty much everybody. And they're just letting him know that the demand for heat isn't what it used to be. And old thirsty Bernie, he was willing to take over anybody's product who may have trouble moving it. Then Red had to break it down and tell him that people wanted fire and not heat. He said that people are wanting it 7-1. He told him that in the club, heat is cool. Everybody wants the heat, but out in the streets, it's that fire. An honorable, faithful Senor Cruz. We all know he's loyal, right? He was very understanding. He was like, we're going to have ups and downs, and that's expected. So what's the problem? But Elsie and Orlando knew what was up, especially Orlando. And it looks like fire is doing better than what anybody expected it to do, despite Alexander's trepidations. Their quarterly earnings are way up, and now Dimitri can shut his mouth up about clean towels and sheets. So they're celebrating over there, but Senor Cruz, he stopped Orlando on his way to the lab after their meeting, and he said that he wanted to meet up with him at the Hellfire Club a little bit later because he wanted to help them figure out who was behind fire. But he told Orlando, listen, I'm going to help you out, but I need to keep my involvement on the hush. So he don't want nobody to know about this. So then LC started giving out assignments to find out who's behind fire. He said that Brother Minister was going to help out, Senor Cruz was going to help out, he's going to send Rio to Miami, Sasha's going to Detroit, and he said he's personally got plans for Corey, the biker. And then Orlando has to stay there to focus on the connection between heat and fire. And Orlando thinks that all of their investors know who's behind fire, but they just don't want to say anything. And that's because all of their orders were short, not just Red and Corey's. So in Senor Cruz's plight to find out what's going on, he's inquiring with Dimitri, one of his biggest and most faithful customers. Then Marco started spilling all the tea. It didn't take him long. He said that he gets fire through a third party and that it was a secret as to who manufactures it. But then he broke down and told him that it's Alexander Cora. He said Alexander is supposed to be washing illegal money, not dealing drugs. And Senor Cruz told him, look, we're going to have to stop him because within about 6 months, he's going to come after us. And they'd better hurry up because fire is killing people left and right. Kim has overdosed, the owner of the club. And this is one of Orlando's favorite places, so of course he's there to figure out what the heck's going on. And he really couldn't believe it because he just knew Kim for doing weed and a little bit of the heat. And one of the girls told him that she didn't want to pay for heat. She was cheap, right? And Orlando didn't like that. Now we have to remember that fire is cheaper than heat, like half the price, right? Orlando said that fire is killing the people that he cares about. So he said if they want a war, then they've got a war. So at this point, LC had to go and tell Vegas what happened to Kim. And apparently, Vegas had something going on with Kim a long time ago. And I didn't know this. Did y'all know this? And initially, Vegas thought that it was heat, the drug that O makes, that killed her. Then he said he should have protected her. And I'm finding out here, I didn't know this either. He said that if he wasn't in jail serving time for LC, that he would have been there to protect her. Did y'all know this? I had no idea that he took the rap for LC. I never knew why he was in jail to begin with at all. Then LC had to remind him that he actually wanted to serve time for him. And he said, yeah, I did come to you with the idea, but you didn't object either. He said that LC was too old to serve the time and he did what was best for the family. Then he said, well, is there anything I can do for you? He was like, yeah, you can get the F out of my face. But they expressed love to each other and then he left. So then we're going to move on to Consuela and Ramon. And she's concerned about Ramon eating, right? And of course, they're starving in that cell that they're in. And Ramon said that he only gets bread scraps and water. And then she promised to look out for him. And she said that she's going to get him out. And again, here she is making promises that she probably can't keep. Like she's locked up just like he is. But she told him, look, I'm going to make a new friend, right? So I'm going to get you out of here and everything's going to be all right. So the cook came back in there to bring them the food. And then she's asking him, well, first she was complimenting him. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you cooked our food. I knew that it was you in the kitchen cooking. I love this dish and yada, yada, yada. So she actually tried to come on to the cook. I don't know his name. She's holding his hand and rubbing all over him. And she even tried to kiss him. And he said, you know what? I know I've lightened up a little bit because I gave Ramon some food, but don't you ever do that again. And while all this is happening, the food or the dishes fell on the floor or something or scattered over the floor. And she said, oh, it's my fault, so I'm going to get it. So she picked it up, gave him the tray, and then he left out. Then we discovered that she had a fork, and apparently that fork is her saving grace. So she's going to try to, break loose with the fork on those handcuffs, I'm sure. And Vegas is really concerned about his mom. He hasn't heard from her in a while, and he told Orlando that he wanted to talk to him, but Orlando brushed him off again and said he had to go to the office and that he'd talk to him later tonight. Now let's move over to Senior Cruz and his son. His son is going to get married to Natalia, and he came over to tell him about the engagement. He said, not only are we engaged, but we're getting married this weekend. So of course, at first, Senior Cruz was a little upset, because he was late, and, he's kind of thinking about the relationship that Natalia has with Consuela. So instead of being all in his feelings, he said, you know what, we're going to celebrate tonight. Let's bring out the tequila. So during this little announcement, Orlando calls, and he said he didn't have time, to talk to Orlando right now. So he told Orlando he was going to call him back. Then that same night at the celebration, of course, he's expressing his feelings and how he feels about his son getting married. And then all of a sudden, boom, bullet right to the head, right in his son's head. And then Senior Cruz fell to the ground, and he was like, no, not my son, shoot me, kill me. He even grabbed the gun and put it to his head, but someone grabbed it out of his hands. He was so torn. He was really hurt behind this. Then we see a lady up in the tree, a sniper. I'm assuming that this is Sagittarius. I don't know. Again, I haven't watched this in months, you guys, so I'm not sure who this is, but we'll find out next week. And if you're still here watching this video, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Ruthless TV. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. And if you're a family business fan, go ahead and sub to the channel because I'll be breaking down videos like this all the time. Thanks once again, you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.